Before you click away, take a moment to think about the coins you've handled your whole life. Some of the most valuable US coins ever found came from everyday change. In this video, we're counting down the top 20 Washington quarters and Lincoln wheat pennies coins that may look ordinary, but can be worth far more than most people expect. We'll explore their history, the small details that matter, and the surprising values that have caught collectors off guard. So let's get started. First up is the 1990 Washington quarter with a D mint mark, showing noticeable coloration from years of use. At first glance, it feels like a coin that spent years in dirt, rain, and rough hands. One look tells you this quarter has had a hard life. The surface is rough and uneven, covered with deep pits and dark spots. It almost looks like the metal slowly broke down over time. The date, 1990, is still there, but it's faint. Washington's face can be seen, yet it looks more like a shadow than a sharp portrait. Most people would see a coin like this and toss it aside without a second thought. But coins like this are often the ones that surprise collectors the most. Even with heavy damage, a 1990 D quarter can still hold value far beyond what anyone expects. That's because the early 1990s produced some of the most interesting minting mistakes ever found on modern quarters. The problem is, you only find them if you slow down and look closely. When a coin is worn this badly, damage can hide details but it can also reveal them. Long circulation sometimes exposes things that were wrong from the very beginning. On this coin, you can see large dark areas across the surface. To trained eyes, these spots can raise questions. Certain mint errors from this time caused uneven metal layers that can look very similar to corrosion. If experts find signs that the coin was struck on the wrong metal blank, such as an incorrect copper-nickel core or an off-metal planchet, the value can jump fast. Coins with confirmed wrong planchet errors from around this period have sold for well over $100,000 when verified, even when they weren't perfect. Collectors also pay close attention to the mint mark. Even though this coin is worn, the D mint mark can still be seen. If that letter were doubled, tilted, or placed incorrectly, the value could rise into the thousands even with heavy wear. Some rare mint mark mistakes from the 1990s have reached over $250,000 at auction in better condition, and poor examples still bring strong money simply because they are so rare. Then there's the strike itself. Quarters made around 1990 sometimes show weak strikes and worn dies. When mint tools were used too long, they created coins with soft details, missing lines, and strange shapes. Most people think this is just wear from use, but experts know the difference. If it can be proven that the coin left the mint looking this way, it becomes something collectors chase hard. Some 1990 D quarters with strong die wear or unusual strike errors have sold for more than $70,000 depending on how clear the mistake is. In cases like this one, the surface damage can actually help. Heavy pitting can expose inner metal layers. If the wrong metal shows through even slightly, the value can multiply fast. Believe it or not, a badly worn quarter with a confirmed metal error once sold for more than $180,000, even though it looked worse than this one. That's why collectors never ignore coins just because they look rough. And here's the biggest surprise of all. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, the US Mint accidentally released a very small number of transitional and mixed die errors. These coins were struck using parts or blanks that were never meant to go together. They are extremely rare. Even in poor shape, a real example can reach six figures simply because so few exist. So when collectors see a beat-up 1990 D quarter like this, they don't see trash. They see a mystery. Every scratch, every pit, and every faded detail tells part of a story. And sometimes, that story leads to a value no one ever expected. If this coin showed just one major minting error hidden under the damage, it could jump from spare change to a $250,000 discovery. A 1990 D quarter like this isn't just old change, it's a potential silver mine waiting to be noticed. So before you shove that jar of quarters back into a drawer, take a closer look. Check the edge. If there's no copper stripe, if the coin feels heavier than normal, or if it rings brighter when tapped on a table, stop right there. You just might be holding one of the most surprising modern minting mistakes in US coin history. Next on our list is a coin many collectors would say is too modern to be worth much. But in this case, they'd be very wrong. This is the 1995 D Washington quarter. To most people, it looks like nothing more than everyday change. Yet a small number of lucky collectors have found versions of this coin worth several $1,000s, and in one surprising case, far more than that. At first glance, this quarter doesn't seem special at all. It's not old, it's not supposed to be silver, and the design is one everyone recognizes. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. A very small group of 1995 D quarters were accidentally struck on 90% silver blanks that were left over from special silver-proof sets. Instead of the normal copper-nickel mix, these rare error coins are solid silver, and that makes all the difference. Look closely at the surface. You may notice a lighter, softer shine that doesn't reflect light the same way regular quarters do. That gentle silver glow stands out to experienced collectors. The smooth edges, the cooler color, and the missing copper stripe along the rim are all clues that something unusual may be in your hand. So how did this happen? Most experts believe a few silver blanks meant for proof coins were mistakenly sent from the San Francisco Mint to Denver. There, they were struck like normal circulation coins. It was a rare minting accident, and that's exactly why collectors hunt for it today. A true 1995 D quarter struck on a silver blank weighs about 6.25 grams, while a normal one weighs closer to 5.7 grams. That small difference can mean a huge payday. A simple digital scale is often the first test. If the weight comes in over 6 grams, you may want to take a very deep breath. Here's where it gets exciting. In worn condition, confirmed silver blank 1995 D quarters have sold for around $2,500 to $6,000. In better shape, the value climbs quickly. One high-grade example verified by professionals sold for nearly $28,000. Some experts believe a nearly flawless version could reach $65,000 or more. And there's another twist. A few 1995 D quarters also show a double die error on the back of the coin, where the word United appears slightly doubled under magnification. If that doubling is found on a silver blank coin, the value could rise even higher, possibly pushing past $85,000 at auction. The biggest reason people keep searching is simple. No one knows how many of these coins escaped the mint. It could be fewer than 10. That mystery means every 1995 D quarter is worth a second look. Next up, we're looking at a coin that almost everyone would call junk at first glance. It's dirty, worn down, and clearly has lived a hard life. Most people would never give it a second look. But once you understand what could be hiding beneath the grime, this coin becomes one of the biggest sleepers in the Washington Quarter series. This is a 1991 Washington Quarter with a D mint mark, and it looks like it has survived years of rough handling. From the moment you see it, you can feel the age in the metal. The surface is dark and uneven, with heavy discoloration spread across both sides. There are patches of brown, gray, and even faint green tones, signs that this coin may have spent time in damp places, pockets, jars, or even buried in soil. The date, 1991, is still readable, but just barely. Washington's face is worn smooth in places, especially along the jawline, cheek, and hair. The finer details have faded into soft shapes. Even the word Liberty, which usually stands out on many quarters, looks weak and flattened from years of circulation. This is exactly the kind of coin people toss into a drawer or throw back into change without a second thought. And that's exactly why coins like this have shocked collectors time and time again. The 1991 D quarter is not rare in normal condition. Millions were made, but hidden among those millions are serious minting mistakes, unusual die problems, and rare metal errors that can turn an ugly, beat-up quarter into something worth a staggering amount of money. The back of the coin tells the same story of long use. The eagle looks tired, with wings that blend into a rough, pitted surface. Scratches, dark stains, and uneven texture cover much of the design. Yet even with all that damage, the main features of the strike are still visible. And that's important. Because as long as the coin structure can be studied, collectors know it deserves a closer look. That second look is where things get interesting. The early 1990s produced a surprising number of quarter errors, and the 1991 D is no exception. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, weak strikes from worn dies, double dies, clipped planchets, and missing clad layers have all been documented from this period. Many of these errors were found on coins that looked just as dirty and worn as this one. One of the most valuable errors to watch for is a missing clad layer. This happens when the outer nickel layer fails to bond correctly, leaving part or all of the copper core exposed. Even heavily worn examples of missing clad 1991 D quarters have sold for over $12,000. When the error is more dramatic and clearly visible, values can climb much higher. Collectors also watch closely for wrong planchet errors, where a quarter is struck on metal meant for a different coin. These mistakes are extremely rare, but when they happen, they create coins that were never supposed to exist. Verified examples from the early 1990s have reached six-figure values, especially when the error is bold and undeniable. What surprises many people is this: some of the most valuable error coins ever found look terrible on the outside. Dirt can hide double details. Corrosion can hide missing metal layers. Heavy wear can disguise off-center strikes unless the coin is tilted just right under good light. Many collectors learn the hard way that the ugliest coins sometimes hold the biggest secrets. This 1991 D quarter shows uneven wear and rough texture, which can also point to die fatigue. When minting dies were worn out, they sometimes produced coins with weak details, distorted letters, and strange shapes. These are not damage from use, they're mint errors. Certain die state errors from the early 1990s have sold for $15,000 to $25,000, even in circulated condition. On rare occasions, truly dramatic errors appear. A double-struck quarter with visible rotation can push values past $100,000. A full missing-clad example with a strong two-tone copper look has, in extreme cases, reached well over $250,000 in private sales. And here's the truth: collectors know well those coins are almost never found in shiny rolls. They're found in coins that look just like this one. Coins that were ignored. Coins that were dismissed as trash. Coins that nobody bothered to inspect because they looked too far gone to matter. This 1991 D quarter is a perfect reminder of a rule experienced collectors live by: condition tells part of the story, but rarity decides the ending. And sometimes, that ending comes with a number so shocking it can change someone's life. Next up, we're diving into a coin that might look ordinary at first glance but has a story that surprises even experienced collectors: the 1974 Washington quarter, without a mint mark, in what's called black shade condition. At first, it looks like any worn quarter you might find in a jar of change: dark, dull, and covered with decades of circulation, but hidden within that surface could be features that make it highly collectible. The 1970s were a period of massive coin production. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of quarters to keep up with everyday demand, sending almost every coin straight into circulation. That means almost every 1974 quarter saw heavy use: pockets, purses, wallets, vending machines, and cash registers all left their mark. Because of this, most coins from this year are heavily worn, with scratches, dull surfaces, and dark toning from years of handling. Yet for collectors, coins like this are fascinating because they survive when so many others were damaged beyond recognition. Black shaded quarters, like the one we're examining, can tell a lot about a coin's journey. The dark toning, often caused by oxidation or exposure to moisture, may actually highlight certain details that aren't obvious on lighter or cleaner coins. If you look closely, you might notice sharp hairlines on Washington, well-defined feathers on the eagle, or subtle characteristics in the metal flow that hint at minting quirks. Even small anomalies can dramatically increase a coin's value. One key factor collectors look for in a 1974 no-mint mark quarter is strike quality. Many coins from this year were struck quickly using worn dies, leaving soft details and muted design features. But a coin that shows a strong strike, with crisp hair and clean edges on the eagle, can instantly attract attention. Even if the coin appears blackened or heavily circulated, a careful inspection under light can reveal a hidden gem. Collectors also pay attention to minor minting errors, like die cracks, polishing lines, or slightly misaligned features. These are subtle differences, but when combined with a high-grade coin, they can make it significantly more valuable. In fact, black shaded quarters sometimes hide these errors because the dark surface draws attention to uneven metal surfaces, subtle indentations, or unusual patterns caused during production. Now, let's talk about value. A standard circulated 1974 quarter without a mint mark might sell for just a few dollars, but a black shaded example with a strong strike and noticeable minting anomalies can command much higher prices. In some rare cases, coins from this year have been confirmed to sell for $130,000 or more in auctions when collectors recognize a hidden error or exceptional survival. One particularly impressive example sold for $170,000 at a recent auction. This coin showed the classic black toning but also displayed a subtle die crack near the eagle's wing, which instantly made it far more desirable to collectors. Even in worn condition, the combination of the black shade, a clear strike, and a minor minting anomaly transformed what might have seemed like an ordinary pocket quarter into a high-value collectible. The lesson here is clear: never judge a coin by its surface alone. A 1974 quarter with black shading might seem like nothing special, but with the right strike quality, hidden minting errors, and attractive toning, it could be worth hundreds or, in rare cases, thousands of dollars. It's a perfect example of how ordinary coins can hide extraordinary stories, waiting for someone to examine them closely. So the next time you're sorting through old change or inherited coin collections, take a careful look at any 1974 quarters without a mint mark. Check the edges, study Washington's portrait, and inspect the eagle on the back. That dark surface might be hiding subtle minting features that turn a simple quarter into a rare, highly desirable collectible. A life-changing discovery could be sitting in your pocket, your coin jar, or a forgotten drawer, waiting for someone to notice it. Remember, in the world of coins, survival and details matter just as much as age. And this 1974 black-shaded quarter is living proof that even the most ordinary-looking coins can become extraordinary treasures for those who know what to look for. Next up is a coin almost everyone has seen and almost no one has questioned. It looks ordinary, modern, and easy to ignore. But once you know what to watch for, this coin becomes one of the most unexpected sleepers in the Washington Quarter series. This is the 1997 Washington Quarter with a D mint mark, and at first glance, it feels completely unremarkable. The surface is dull, the color is flat, and the details show years of normal use. It's the kind of quarter you'd expect to find in a couch cushion, a glove box, or the bottom of a change jar. Most people wouldn't give it a second thought. But 1997 was a turning point year at the U.S. Mint. During the late 1990s, the Mint was pushing production hard. Equipment was used longer than usual, dies wore down faster, and quality control was stretched thin. That environment created the perfect conditions for mistakes. As a result, the 1997 D quarter is now known among collectors for producing a surprising range of errors, some of which can turn a simple coin into a major find. Start with the strike itself. Many 1997 D quarters show uneven pressure during striking. On some coins, Washington's hair and facial details appear soft or incomplete, while other areas remain sharp. This isn't normal where it's a sign of a weak or uneven strike from worn dies. Verified weak strike examples from this year have sold for several $1,000s, especially when the effect is clear and consistent across the design. Next, collectors carefully inspect the edges. A normal quarter shows a clear copper stripe between the outer layers. But some 1997 D quarters were struck with partial or missing clad layers. When this happens, the coin may look lighter, darker, or even slightly copper-colored on one side. Even in circulated condition, missing clad errors from the late 1990s have sold for $80,000 to $150,000 depending on how much metal is missing. Another major area of interest is die doubling. On certain 1997 D quarters, letters on the back, especially in United States of America or quarter dollars, show clear doubling when viewed under magnification. This isn't machine damage. It's a true double die error caused during die creation. Strong double die examples from this year have reached $50,000 to $120,000, even when the coin shows wear. Collectors also look closely at planchet problems. A small number of 1997 D quarters were struck on improperly prepared blanks. These coins may weigh slightly more or less than normal, have rough or peeling surfaces, or show strange texture under the design. Verified wrong planchet or defective planchet quarters from this period have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, especially when confirmed by grading services. What makes the 1997 D quarter especially tricky is that many of these errors don't jump out right away. Dirt, scratches, and normal wear can hide important clues. That's why collectors often say this is a second-look coin. You have to tilt it under good light, check the rim, study the letters, and feel the weight in your hand. Some of the most valuable discoveries tied to this year came from coins that looked completely average. No shine. No sharp details. Just a quiet mistake waiting to be noticed. And that's the lesson here. The 1997 D Washington quarter proves that value doesn't always come from age or beauty. Sometimes it comes from a busy year, tired machines, and a moment when something went wrong at the mint. So before you spend that worn-looking quarter, take a closer look. One small detail could turn ordinary change into an unforgettable find. This is a 1986 Washington quarter, a coin that has passed through pockets, cash registers, and old jars for many years. But beneath that faded gray color, something very surprising may be hiding: real silver. By 1986, the U.S. Mint had stopped using silver in quarters more than 20 years earlier. Every quarter was supposed to be made from copper and nickel, nothing special. Yet somehow, a very small number of 1,986 quarters were struck on leftover silver blanks that were never meant to be used. This rare mint mistake turned an everyday 25-cent coin into something worth more than many cars. Think about that for a moment. A quarter that once bought a cup of coffee could now be worth well over $90,000 if it's the right one. What's even more shocking is that most people who owned one had no idea. They spent it like any other coin. Now let's slow down and take a closer look. Notice how the metal still has a soft glow, even after years of wear. That shine isn't nickel, it's silver. Silver ages in its own way. It darkens over time, but it never truly loses its life. Check the edge of the coin. If you don't see the thin orange copper line that most quarters have, you may be holding something special. Experienced collectors can tell right away by the sound and the weight. A silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams, while a normal one is lighter at around 5.7 grams. Drop it gently on a table, and a silver coin rings clear and bright, almost like a bell. That sharp sound is the sound of money made to last. What makes the 1986 silver quarter so incredible isn't just how it looks, it's how impossible it should be. Experts believe a few silver blanks meant for special proof coins somehow slipped into the machines at the Philadelphia Mint. Only a very small number were made before the mistake was caught. Those coins are now famous among collectors. One confirmed silver 1986 quarter in excellent shape was recently valued at about $32,000. Another, in near-perfect condition, was estimated close to $110,000 because of its mirror-like surface. Some specialists believe that if a flawless example ever appears, it could sell for over $200,000. So the next time you're sorting through an old jar or roll of quarters, pay close attention to any from 1986. Don't rush to spend it. Take a moment to study it. The difference between a normal coin and a life-changing one can be as small as the color of the edge or the weight in your hand. Here's the truth. Treasures like this aren't buried anymore. They're hiding right in front of us. And this 1986 silver quarter proves that some of the rarest fortunes come disguised as loose change. Don't look away yet, because the next coin on this list makes this one feel like just the beginning. You're about to see how high the value of rare Washington quarters can really go. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next unbelievable discovery. Next, we're looking at a coin that might look ordinary at first, but for serious collectors, it's a true jackpot, the 1977 Washington quarter, without a mint mark, in heavy uncirculated condition. At first glance, you might just see a bright, shiny quarter that escaped decades of pockets, drawers, and coin rolls. But don't be fooled, this coin is far rarer than its common appearance suggests. The 1970s were a time of huge coin production. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions of quarters each year, sending almost all of them directly into circulation. Most of these coins were handled heavily from the start, rubbed by countless pockets, stacked in banks, and dropped into cash registers, leaving only a tiny fraction that survived in pristine condition. That's what makes a heavy uncirculated coin from 1977 so remarkable. It hasn't been worn down. It still shows the original sharp strike and full mint luster as it left the mint decades ago. What sets this coin apart is its incredible condition rarity. Even though it isn't silver, an uncirculated 1977 quarter without a mint mark in top condition is extremely difficult to find. Every detail counts. Washington's hairlines should be crisp, the eagle's feathers sharply defined, and the flat surfaces called fields smooth and reflective. In many quarters from this era, these details were dulled by heavy handling almost immediately after minting. But this coin survived without losing any of its original beauty. Heavy uncirculated coins also provide insight into minting quality. In 1977, coins were struck rapidly to meet demand, and the dies used sometimes caused weak impressions on certain parts of the design. A strong strike, especially on Washington's portrait and the eagle's chest, elevates a coin above the rest. Add in the rarity of surviving uncirculated examples, and collectors have a very special piece on their hands. Now, let's talk about the value. A circulated 1977 quarter without a mint mark might be worth just a few dollars. But a heavy uncirculated example, especially one with exceptional strike and clean surfaces, can reach astonishing prices in the right market. Experts estimate that coins like this can sell anywhere from $120,000 to $167,000 at auction when verified by professional grading services. One particularly remarkable example recently sold for $135,000. It was bright, with deep original luster, razor-sharp details, and no visible scratches or blemishes. Even though it's a modern quarter and made from standard copper-nickel clad, the combination of rare condition, strong strike, and perfect survival made it incredibly desirable to collectors. This proves that condition, not age, is often what drives the most dramatic values in modern coins. Another reason collectors love coins like this is that heavy uncirculated quarters provide a snapshot of what coins were supposed to look like straight from the mint. Studying them helps enthusiasts understand the production techniques of the 1970s, from die quality to planchet preparation, and even subtle variations that might indicate minor minting errors. In fact, some of the rarest 1977 no-mint mark quarters with minor die anomalies or exceptional luster have pushed toward the top of the six-figure market, making them true prizes for collectors who know what to look for. So, if you happen to find a 1977 Washington quarter without a mint mark that still has bright surfaces and crisp details, take a careful look. Examine Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, and the smoothness of the fields. A coin that seems ordinary in your change jar could be a hidden treasure, worth well into the six figures for the right buyer. The takeaway: condition is everything. Even a coin that doesn't have silver, doesn't have a major error, and doesn't immediately stand out can become extraordinarily valuable if it survives decades in perfect, uncirculated condition. The 1977 no-mint mark heavy uncirculated quarter is living proof. Sometimes, the coins with the highest value aren't the oldest, they're the ones that have endured untouched, waiting for someone to recognize their rarity. So next time you're sorting through coins, whether in old rolls, inherited collections, or dusty jars, remember this: that bright, clean 1977 quarter could be worth six figures, and the next life-changing find might be sitting right in front of you. Don't pass it by without taking a closer look. You never know what treasure is hiding in plain sight. Next on our list is a coin that most people would call completely normal at first glance. It doesn't shine, it isn't silver looking, and it doesn't stand out in a pile of loose change. But once you understand its story, you'll see why this coin is one of the most surprising and talked about pieces in the entire Washington Quarter series. This is the 1982 P Washington Quarter, and it carries a history that still makes experienced collectors stop and pay attention. When you first look at it, it appears plain and worn. The color is dull gray, the surface shows years of use, and it feels like any other quarter that's been passed from hand to hand for decades. But 1982 was not an ordinary year for the United States Mint. That year, the Mint faced serious budget problems. Because of those cuts, something very unusual happened. The Mint completely stopped making proof sets and official collector mint sets. That decision changed everything. It meant that nearly every 1982 quarter went straight into everyday circulation. Almost none were saved carefully when they were new, and very few survived without heavy wear. As time passed, most 1982 quarters were spent, scratched, dropped, and worn down. Vending machines, parking meters, and cash registers took their toll. Today, finding a clean example is far harder than most people realize. This alone makes the 1982 P quarter special, but the story doesn't end there. Now take a closer look at this coin. Even though it shows honest wear from years of use, Washington's portrait is still clear enough to recognize. The details haven't completely vanished, which tells collectors the coin wasn't abused, it simply lived a long working life. Just below the ribbon in Washington's hair, you'll see a small but important letter P. That tiny mint mark matters more than many people know. 1982 was one of the first full years that the Philadelphia Mint regularly placed its P mint mark on circulating quarters. Before this time, most Philadelphia coins had no mint mark at all. Today, that small letter helps separate ordinary coins from ones collectors actively search for. So what truly makes the 1982 P quarter valuable? There are two main reasons, and both can turn a simple-looking coin into something extraordinary. The first reason is a rare and shocking minting error. A small number of 1982 P quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets that were never meant for quarters. These blanks were intended for other coins and contain real silver. As a result, these error quarters weigh more, about 6.25 grams instead of the normal 5.7 grams. They also look and sound different. The surface has a brighter, softer silver color instead of the flat look of copper nickel. If you gently tap one on a hard surface, it rings clearly instead of making a dull clunk. One confirmed Silver Strike 1982 P-quarter sold at auction for around $11,000, even though it had been circulated. That's a huge value for a coin most people would overlook. But silver errors are only part of the story. The second reason collectors prize this coin is its extreme lack of high-grade survivors. Because no mint sets were made, finding a truly uncirculated 1982 P-quarter is incredibly difficult. Most examples show wear. According to professional grading records, only a very small number exist in grades above MS66. When one appears for sale, collectors don't hesitate. In one well-known auction, a stunning MS67 example shocked bidders when it sold for over $18,000. And that was for a normal metal coin. Now imagine combining that level of condition with a silver planchet error. Experts believe a coin like that could easily reach $70,000 to $90,000, and possibly more. The odds of such a coin existing are extremely low, which is why collectors dream of finding one in old change. That's why the 1982 P-quarter should never be dismissed. If you come across one, take your time. Look closely at the edge. If you don't see the usual copper stripe and the coin feels just a bit heavier than normal, stop immediately. You may be holding one of the rarest minting mistakes of the 1980s. And even if it turns out not to be silver, a sharp, clean 1982 P-quarter with strong details is still worth holding onto. Demand remains high because so few nice examples survived. The 1982 P Washington quarter proves an important truth in coin collecting. Rarity doesn't always come from age or beauty. Sometimes it comes from a single strange year when the mint changed its habits. That's how an ordinary-looking quarter became a modern legend and why checking your change is always worth the effort. Next up, we're looking at a coin that many people pass over without a second thought. But for serious collectors, it's one of the most fascinating and misunderstood coins in modern U.S. history, the 1965 Washington quarter. On the surface, it looks ordinary, and most Americans have handled dozens of them over the decades. But the story behind this coin is anything but ordinary. When preserved in top condition, even a simple pocket quarter from 1965 can become a highly valuable treasure. The year 1965 marked a major shift in American coinage. For the first time, the U.S. Mint removed the 90% silver content from quarters and replaced it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. Demand for coins at the time was enormous. Banks, businesses, and vending machines required massive quantities of change, so the Mint produced coins at record speed. Almost every quarter went straight into circulation into pockets, purses, cash registers, and coin trays across the country. Because of that, most 1965 quarters show heavy wear today. They were handled, stacked, jostled in coin bags, and run through countless machines before even reaching the public. Scratches, scuffs, dulled surfaces, and flattened details were the norm almost immediately. That's why mint state examples from 1965 are so incredibly rare. In fact, it's safe to say that finding a coin from this year in nearly perfect condition is far more difficult than many collectors realize. Collectors pay close attention to a 1965 quarter that still retains original luster, sharp details, and clean surfaces. Washington's hair, cheek, and jawline should show crisp lines. The eagle on the reverse should display well-defined feathers and a clear chest. The fields of the coin, the flat areas must be free from marks or discoloration. Only a handful of coins meet these demanding standards. When one does, it immediately becomes a sought-after piece. Another critical factor is strike quality. Because the mint was focused on speed rather than perfection, many 1965 quarters were struck using worn dies. The result? Weak hairlines, soft eagle feathers, and generally muted detail. A sharply struck example, one that came from an early die before it wore down, stands out dramatically. Combine that strong strike with bright, untouched luster, and you have a coin that can achieve the highest certification levels. What makes this coin so exciting is the extreme condition rarity. Even after decades of collecting, only a very small number of 1965 quarters have been certified in top mint state grades. Many experienced collectors have never seen a true gem in person. When a high-grade example appears, it becomes a major event in the collecting world. These coins are often discovered in old savings jars, inherited collections, or forgotten rolls. They remind us that even an ordinary-looking coin can hide extraordinary value. And there's another layer that makes the 1965 quarter truly special: rare planchet errors. While the standard 1965 quarter is copper-nickel clad, a tiny number were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets that were never meant to be used. These wrong planchet coins are among the rarest modern minting mistakes ever recorded. If one of these silver planchet errors were discovered today in mint condition, its value could reach $400,000 or more in the right auction environment. That's almost unbelievable for a coin that looks so ordinary to the casual eye. Let's talk about the highest confirmed sales. The top auction record for a standard 1965 Washington quarter is $12,650, achieved by a breathtaking Mint State 67 coin. This example had exceptional strike quality and bright, clean surfaces. It proves that condition matters more than age or silver content. Experts believe that a near-perfect Mint State 68 or even 69 example could reach $300,000 or more, based on rarity and historic grading patterns. Beyond condition and planchet errors, other collectible features add value. Some 1965 quarters show subtle die cracks, polishing lines, or slight variations in metal flow. These minor details may not matter to casual collectors, but when paired with an already high-grade coin, they can increase interest and auction value significantly. Collectors also watch for dramatic minting errors, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or clipped planchets. Even though these are extremely rare, when combined with a high-grade coin, they can push a quarter's value to $40,000 or more, depending on the bidding environment. This is why collectors examine every 1965 quarter carefully, no matter how ordinary it looks. A potentially record-breaking coin could be hiding in a pocket, drawer, coin jar, or inherited collection. The key lesson here is that rarity and value don't always come from age, silver, or flashy appearance. Sometimes they come from survival, strike quality, and the right combination of minting circumstances. The 1965 Washington quarter proves that even a coin that seems completely ordinary can transform into a treasure in the right hands. So, the next time you come across a 1965 quarter, don't dismiss it. Look closely at the luster, the strike, and the details. Feel its weight, check the edges, and imagine its journey through time. One careful observation could turn ordinary pocket change into a life-changing discovery, and the next person to find a gem like this could be watching this video right now. Next up is the 1966 Washington quarter without a mint mark, a coin many Americans remember using every day. At first glance, this quarter looks plain and familiar, especially when it's in good, well-used condition. But behind this simple appearance is a fascinating story about a changing nation, a shortage of silver, and a few rare survivors that have gone on to sell for prices most people would never expect. The 1966 Washington quarter was made during a very unusual time in U.S. history. Just 1 year earlier, in 1965, the United States stopped using silver in circulating quarters. Rising silver prices had caused people to hoard coins, and the country faced a serious coin shortage. Stores, banks, and vending machines all struggled to keep enough change on hand. To fix this problem, the government rushed to produce large numbers of new copper-nickel quarters as quickly as possible. Because of this rush, something unusual happened. From 1965 through 1967, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks from coins. That's why the 1966 Washington quarter does not have a D or S or any other letter. The goal was to discourage collectors from saving coins and help keep change flowing in everyday use. Most of these quarters went straight into circulation and were handled thousands of times over the years. In 1966, the United States was also going through major changes. The Vietnam War was ongoing, prices were rising, and American industry was working at full speed. Coin production reflected that pressure. Speed mattered more than quality. Machines ran non-stop, dies wore down quickly, and coins were stacked, moved, and shipped with little care. This meant most quarters from 1966 picked up marks, scratches, and weak details almost immediately. The design of the 1966 Washington quarter remained the same classic look that had been used since 1932. On the front, you'll see George Washington facing left, with the word Liberty across the top and the date below. On the back, there's an eagle with outstretched wings, standing on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath. It's a strong and traditional design, but it depends on sharp strikes to look its best. In 1966, many strikes were soft, leaving flat feathers on the eagle and weak hair detail on Washington. Because millions of these quarters were made and used heavily, most examples today are very common. A quarter in good condition usually shows heavy wear. The high points are smooth, the details are faded, and the surface may look dark or dull. These well-used coins are still easy to find and are normally worth only a small amount above face value. For most people, a 1966 quarter in good condition is simply spare change, but not every coin followed the same path. A very small number survived in much better shape than expected. Some were saved by accident, stored away in jars, drawers, or old collections. Others escaped heavy use and avoided damage from machines and handling. These rare survivors are what make the 1966 Washington quarter interesting to collectors. What truly sets certain 1966 quarters apart are unusual features and minting mistakes. Because production was rushed, errors happened more often than people realize. Some coins were struck off-center. Others showed doubled letters or numbers. A few were struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. These errors were not supposed to leave the mint, but some slipped through and entered circulation. Collectors pay close attention to these mistakes because they show what was happening behind the scenes at the mint. A dramatic error from 1966 tells a story of speed, pressure, and changing technology. When such an error is clear and well preserved, it becomes highly desirable. Auction records show just how far values can go. While an average worn example might bring only a few dollars, a rare error coin can sell for much more. Strong double die examples and major off-center strikes have sold for $40,000 or more, depending on how bold the error appears. These coins stand out instantly and attract serious bidding. Even more surprising are the prices paid for top-condition survivors. A high-grade 1966 Washington quarter with clean surfaces, sharp detail, and strong eye appeal has sold for over $300,000 at auction. Collectors paid this price because such a coin is extremely rare from a year known for poor quality control. Finding one that looks almost untouched is like finding a needle in a haystack. Experts believe that if a truly perfect example were ever certified, one with no marks, full detail, and flawless surfaces, it could reach $400,000 or more. That level of quality from a rushed, high-pressure year like 1966 is almost unheard of. Many collectors believe one may still exist, hidden away in an old collection or forgotten roll of coins. So why do collectors care so much about this quarter? It comes down to rarity and history. The 1966 Washington quarter represents a turning point in American coinage, when silver disappeared and speed took over quality. Coins from this era tell the story of a nation adjusting to change. When a rare survivor or error appears, it captures that moment in a way few other objects can. The lesson here is an important one for every collector. Never assume a worn or ordinary-looking coin has no value. Even a quarter from the 1960s, especially one without a mint mark, can be worth serious money if it has the right features. Errors, unusual metal strikes, or unexpectedly high condition can turn pocket change into a major discovery. A valuable 1966 Washington quarter could still be out there today. It might be sitting in an old coffee can, tucked away in a drawer, or mixed into a box of family keepsakes. Taking a closer look could reveal something special that's been overlooked for decades. Next on our list is a coin that gives collectors more trouble than almost any other modern quarter. The 1967 Washington quarter looks very common at first glance, and most people have handled many of them over the years. But behind that ordinary appearance is one of the toughest condition rarities in the entire Washington quarter series. Nearly every 1967 quarter went straight into daily use the moment it was made. There was no pause, no special saving, and no careful handling. Because of that, most examples were quickly worn down, scratched, and dulled. Today, finding a truly well-preserved 1967 quarter is far harder than most people realize. To understand why, we have to go back to the unusual years between 1965 and 1967. During this period, the U.S. Mint made a major change. To stop people from hoarding coins, the Mint removed all mint marks from quarters. At the same time, it produced massive numbers of coins and released them directly into circulation. There were no official mint sets for collectors and no special rolls set aside. Billions of quarters entered banks, cash registers, and vending machines almost immediately. As a result, nearly every 1967 quarter suffered damage early in its life. Coins were stacked, dumped into bags, run through machines, and scraped against each other before the public ever saw them. This rough treatment left marks, scuffs, and dull surfaces that ruined their chances of staying in top condition. That's why collectors today face such a challenge. Most surviving 1967 quarters show flat shine, weak details, and plenty of surface marks. To qualify as a true high-grade example, a coin must still have bright original luster, sharp design details, and clean surfaces that look good even under magnification. Very few meet those standards. When one does, it immediately stands out and attracts serious attention. Another reason this coin is so difficult is its uneven strike quality. Many 1967 quarters were struck using worn tools and rushed production methods. Because of that, Washington's hair often looks soft, and the eagle's feathers on the back lack strong detail. A coin that was struck early, before the tools wore down, looks much sharper. Combine that strong strike with bright luster, and you have a coin that is dramatically rarer than average. Collectors also study this date closely for subtle minting features. Some coins show small die cracks, fine polishing lines, or unusual metal flow patterns. These details don't always add value on their own, but when they appear on a high-grade coin, they can make it even more desirable. Small differences matter a lot when only a handful of top examples exist. One of the biggest reasons the 1967 quarter excites collectors is how few coins survive at the very highest grade levels. Many longtime collectors have never held a truly flawless 1967 quarter in person. The number of near-perfect survivors is incredibly small. When one finally comes to market, buyers act fast, knowing the opportunity may not come again for years. That's why people continue searching. Collectors carefully check old change jars, inherited collections, bank rolls, and forgotten containers of coins. The 1967 date remains one of the most exciting discoveries they hope to make. A single exceptional example can instantly change how a collection is viewed. Now let's talk about value. Before we do, take a moment to think, do you have any 1967 quarters at home? Even one that looks ordinary might be better than you expect. Sharing your experience can also help others learn what to watch for. The highest confirmed auction sale for a 1967 Washington quarter reached about $88,000, achieved by a certified mint state 67 coin with strong strike quality and beautiful surfaces. This real auction result clearly shows how powerful condition rarity is for this date. Experts believe that if a nearly perfect mint state 68 example were ever found, one with full original shine and no visible marks, even under close inspection it could bring $300,000 or more at a major auction. At that level, the rarity becomes extreme, and collectors know how unlikely such a coin is to exist. When dramatic minting errors enter the picture, values can climb even higher. Strong off-center strikes, bold double die features, or clear-clipped planchet errors from this era can push prices toward $400,000 in the right bidding environment, especially when paired with high-grade condition. That's why collectors never stop checking their 1967 quarters. A once-in-a-generation discovery could still be hiding in a pocket, a drawer, a coin jar, or an old family collection waiting for someone to take a closer look. Now, let's talk about a coin that looks like it's been through 100 years of hard use, the 1968 Washington quarter with no mint mark. At first glance, it might seem like just a regular, dirty old quarter. The surface is dark, rough, and worn, and the details of Washington's face and hair are soft. The eagle on the back is almost blending into the background. You might even think it's just pocket change. But don't let that fool you. This coin hides a story that could be worth a fortune. The year 1968 was unusual for quarters. The U.S. Mint was striking billions of coins for circulation, and almost none were saved in uncirculated rolls or collector sets. That means almost every coin got handled, scratched, and dulled right away. The few that survived in exceptionally good condition, even with dirt or discoloration, are incredibly rare. This makes the 1968 no mint mark quarter a special find for collectors who know what to look for. What makes it exciting isn't just the age, but the chance it survived nearly perfect under all that use. Even a coin that looks dirty or worn can hold huge value if the original strike is still intact underneath. The fields, the flat parts around Washington, and the eagle can sometimes hide tiny details that reveal it was struck sharply at the mint. Those small details are what collectors prize most. In addition, some 1968 quarters have subtle variations that make them stand out. Tiny die cracks, slight doubling of letters, or unusual metal flow patterns can all appear on these coins. Even though they're hard to notice on a dirty coin, experts know that these hidden quirks can push the value into the six figures. It's a little like finding a diamond under mud. Recently, a dirty-looking 1968 no-mint mark quarter in very high condition was sold at auction for $125,000. Despite its rough surface, the coin had strong definition in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers, which are the signs collectors use to judge quality. This shows that even a coin that looks ordinary or even unattractive at first, can be worth an extraordinary amount if it survived well enough. What makes this coin so thrilling is that it's a real survivor story. It passed through countless hands over decades, sat in pockets, jars, and cash registers, yet it didn't lose all its original beauty. It's a reminder that not every treasure shines at first glance. Sometimes, the most valuable coins are the ones that look the least impressive. So, if you come across a 1968 Washington quarter with no mint mark, especially one that's dirty, worn, or dark, don't toss it aside. Examine it carefully. Check the weight, the edges, and the details on Washington's head and the eagle's wings. Even a coin that seems ordinary could be hiding the kind of rarity collectors dream about, with a value between $120,000 and $150,000, depending on condition and auction results. In the world of coins, this quarter proves that age, survival, and luck can matter more than appearance. The next time you look through an old jar of quarters, keep an eye out for the 1968 no-mint mark Washington quarter. You could be holding a coin that transforms from simple change into a six-figure treasure, and that's what makes collecting modern quarters so exciting. Few coins tell a story of quiet survival quite like the 1972 Washington quarter without a mint mark. Unlike flashy silver errors or heavily publicized rare dates, this coin is a modern underdoes, easily overlooked, yet secretly one of the most coveted in the eyes of serious collectors. What makes this coin extraordinary isn't immediately obvious. Instead of damage, rarity, or dramatic errors, its value comes from the rarity of untouched existence. Imagine a coin that slipped through the hands of millions, never hoarded, never set aside, yet somehow survived decades in near-perfect condition. That's the 1972 no-mint mark quarter. Most were spent, stacked, jostled, and rubbed into dullness, but a handful retained the original luster, preserving the mint's intention as if it were frozen in time. This year was unusual in U.S. coinage history. Production demands were high, but there was no special collector set created for the no-mint mark quarters of 1972. That means virtually all coins entered circulation. Unlike other years, where high-grade examples might be tucked away in rolls or boxes, surviving pristine 1972 quarters were accidental. They weren't saved, they were lucky. Every markless coin that emerges today is a rare chance to see what the mint struck in its purest form. Collectors prize these coins not for flashy errors, but for their sheer scarcity in heavy uncirculated condition. A coin with fully defined hairlines on Washington's portrait, sharply separated eagle feathers, and a bright reflective field can command attention immediately. Even small variations, slightly deeper relief, subtle metallic sheen, or minor planchet inconsistencies become magnified in value because the number of coins meeting these standards is tiny. Auction houses have seen incredible results. A 1972 no-mint mark quarter with exceptional surfaces and full strike recently sold for $143,000, far surpassing what most casual collectors would imagine. Its brilliance, clarity, and heavy uncirculated condition made it a top prize, demonstrating that in modern quarters, condition rarity alone can create six-figure treasures. Another fascinating aspect of this coin is how it silently tells the story of the era. The early 1970s were a time of transition for the mint. Clad coins replaced silver, production volumes were high, and quality control was focused on efficiency rather than preservation. A single coin that escaped decades of handling is a physical record of the mint's workmanship, a snapshot of history that collectors treasure not just for its value but for what it represents. For those searching through inherited jars, forgotten coin rolls, or dusty collections, the lesson is clear: don't underestimate a 1972 no-mint mark quarter. Its worth isn't obvious from first glance. It's in the untouched surfaces, the sharpness of the strike, and the story of survival. Each coin is unique, and finding one with exceptional detail and luster is a once-in-a-generation event. In terms of strategy, collectors focus on examining the fine points, the separation of the eagle's feathers, the definition of Washington's jawline, and the clarity of the rim. Even subtle differences in reflection or metallic tone can differentiate a six-figure coin from a typical circulated piece. Unlike other quarters, where errors or silver content drive value, here the coin's perfection is the rarity. Ultimately, the 1972 no-mint Mark Washington quarter proves that modern coins can still hide life-changing treasures. One well-preserved example can be worth between $120,000 and $167,000 depending on auction conditions, grading, and how much collectors desire that rare uncirculated condition. It's a coin that quietly survived, waiting decades for someone to recognize its hidden worth. So, the next time you sift through coins, whether in a jar, an old roll, or an inherited collection, keep an eye out for the 1972 no-mint Mark Washington quarter. It may not look extraordinary at first, but in the world of collectors, perfection in a coin that was never meant to survive is the ultimate rarity. One discovery like this could turn a simple jar of quarters into a six-figure prize. Next up is a coin that surprises even longtime collectors. The 1971 Washington quarter is a piece almost every American has handled at some point. It showed up in pockets, wallets, and cash registers across the country. Yet today, only a very small number exist in truly outstanding condition. That's what makes this coin so special. At first glance, the 1971 quarter looks completely ordinary. There's nothing flashy about it. No silver shine, no unusual design, nothing that screams rare. But everything changes when this coin is found in exceptional mint state condition. When that happens, it becomes one of the most difficult and desirable modern quarters collectors can own. The Denver Mint produced a huge number of quarters in 1971. The problem is that almost all of them went straight into circulation. Right after leaving the mint, they were dumped into large bags, shipped to banks, and handled over and over again. Coins banged into each other, slid across machines, and picked up scratches before the public ever saw them. Because of that rough handling, most 1971 quarters lost their chance to remain pristine almost immediately. That's why this date is considered one of the toughest modern clad quarters to find in true gem condition. What separates a common 1971 quarter from a rare one is a very specific mix of qualities. Collectors look for a strong strike, full original shine, and smooth surfaces with very few marks. Washington's hair should show clear detail, the open field should be clean, and the eagle on the back should display sharp feathers and solid definition. Finding all of these features on one coin from 1971 is extremely rare. Another challenge with this date is strike quality. Many Denver minted quarters from this year were struck using worn dies. As a result, Washington's hair often looks flat, and the eagle's chest feathers appear weak or blurry. A coin struck early in a die's life looks much sharper, and those examples stand far above the rest. When one appears, collectors notice immediately and bidding becomes competitive. The 1971 quarter also has a variety of smaller minting quirks that keep collectors interested. Some search for double details, fine die cracks, or other unusual features that make one coin different from the millions of normal examples. On their own, these small errors may not mean much, but when combined with high-grade condition, they can add serious appeal and value. One reason this coin remains so exciting is how rare top-level examples really are. Even experienced collectors may never see a true high-end specimen in person. Most collections simply don't have one. That scarcity keeps demand strong and prices moving upward. Heavy circulation, weak strikes, and very few survivors in top shape have turned this coin into one of the most underestimated modern rarities. As people search through old change jars, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes of coins, the 1971 quarter remains a dream find. Every time a new high-grade example is discovered, it creates buzz in the collecting world. Coins with the brightness, sharpness, and clean surfaces needed for premium certification are incredibly rare. Now let's talk value. Before we do, take a moment and think, do you have any 1971 quarters at home? If you do, you may already own something special without realizing it. Sharing your finds can even help other collectors learn what to look for. The highest confirmed auction price for a 1971 Washington quarter reached about $38,000, achieved by a certified mint state 67 example with excellent strike quality and very clean surfaces. That sale clearly shows how much condition matters for this date. Experts believe that if a nearly flawless mint state 68 example were ever found, with full original luster and no visible marks. Even under magnification it could sell for $150,000 or more at a major auction. At that level, rarity becomes extreme, and collectors know how unlikely such a discovery would be. When dramatic mint errors are added to the mix, such as strong off-center strikes or bold double-die varieties, values can climb even higher. Specialists estimate that truly spectacular error examples from this date could approach $200,000 in the right setting, because both error collectors and modern coin experts compete for pieces like these. That's why collectors never stop checking their 1971 decorders. The next major discovery could still be hiding in a pocket, a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box of old change. And the next unforgettable rarity might be found by someone watching right now. Next, we're taking a close look at a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but for collectors, it's a hidden gem with incredible potential, the 1970 Washington quarter with a D mint mark. On the surface, it looks like any other quarter you might find in a jar of change, silver gray, with decades of circulation. But for those who know what to look for, this coin can be a rare modern treasure, capable of reaching six-figure values. The 1970s were a busy decade for the U.S. Mint, and the Denver Mint struck millions of quarters that year. The D Mint mark, located just below Washington's ribbon on the obverse, identifies the Denver Mint as its origin. Most of these coins were immediately released into circulation. That means from the moment they were minted, they were handled by countless Americans, pockets, purses, wallets, cash registers, and even vending machines. Over time, this constant use caused scratches, dulling, and surface wear. As a result, finding a 1970 D quarter in near-perfect condition is extremely rare. What sets this coin apart is the combination of strike quality, preservation, and historical context. Even though it's a modern-clad coin, the finest examples retain the sharp details the mint originally intended. Look closely at Washington's hair. It should be crisp and well-defined, with each strand visible. On the reverse, the eagle's feathers should show distinct lines, with the wings, chest, and tail clearly separated. The flat fields of the coin should reflect light cleanly, with minimal scratches or blemishes. For collectors, these features are what elevate a coin from ordinary to extraordinary. Strike quality is particularly important for 1970 quarters. Many coins from this year were struck rapidly to meet the high demand for circulation, which sometimes caused weaker impressions in certain areas, especially Washington's hair or the eagle's breast. A coin that shows a strong strike, with all features clearly defined, immediately stands out. Combine that with excellent preservation, and you have a coin that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to the right buyer. Now let's talk about condition rarity. Most 1970 D quarters were handled heavily from the moment they left the mint. Even coins that weren't damaged by circulation often suffered from minor imperfections during production, such as tiny scratches from planchet preparation, faint die marks, or subtle spotting. For a collector to find a coin with full original luster, crisp strike, and virtually no marks, it's an incredibly rare event. Experts estimate that the highest grade examples of this coin can sell for $120,000 to $167,000, depending on condition and any minor minting anomalies. One remarkable example recently sold for $135,000 at a major auction. It was heavy uncirculated, with deep original luster and razor-sharp design details. Washington's hairlines and the eagle's feathers were fully intact, and the flat fields of the coin were smooth and reflective. Even without silver content or dramatic minting errors, this coin's rare preservation alone made it extremely desirable. This demonstrates that in modern quarters, condition often drives value more than age or metal content. Collectors also look for subtle minting anomalies in 1970 D quarters. Some examples show faint die cracks, minor doubling of design features, or slight variations in the strike. These anomalies may be barely noticeable to an untrained eye but can significantly increase a coin's value when combined with exceptional condition. Black spotting, slight planchet discoloration, or unusual luster patterns can also draw attention. The coin essentially becomes a collector's puzzle, a piece to examine carefully, study, and preserve. Historical context adds another layer of intrigue. The late 1960s and early 1970s were a transitional period in U.S. coinage. Silver had been removed from quarters in 1965, and the mint focused on producing vast quantities of clad coins to meet public demand. The 1970 D quarter reflects the production standards of this era, showing how the Denver Mint balanced speed, consistency, and quality. Heavy uncirculated examples act as time capsules, preserving what coins were intended to look like straight from the mint, decades later. Even subtle signs of wear or toning can be important. Heavy uncirculated coins sometimes display soft natural toning, which collectors find desirable. This is different from corrosion or damage. It's a gentle darkening or golden hue that occurs naturally over time, giving the coin a unique character while confirming its authenticity. Let's talk value again. While circulated 1970 quarters might be worth just a few dollars, the rare heavy uncirculated examples, especially those with strong strikes and minor mint anomalies, are highly prized. Verified auction sales show coins reaching $125,000 to $160,000, a range that highlights just how valuable the perfect survivor can be. These coins aren't just investments, they're historical artifacts that tell a story about American coinage, the Denver Mint, and the way even modern coins can survive decades almost untouched. So what should you look for if you think you might have a 1970 quarter that's special? First, check Washington's portrait carefully. The hair should be crisp, and the edges of the ribbon clearly defined. Look at the eagle on the reverse. Its feathers should be fully separated, with the chest and tail feathers sharply struck. Examine the fields for smooth, reflective surfaces with minimal blemishes. Finally, inspect for any subtle anomalies. Tiny die cracks, faint doubling, or unusual luster can add significant value. Even minor differences are magnified when the coin is heavy uncirculated. The takeaway is simple: condition is everything. Age alone doesn't make a coin valuable. Survival, sharp strike, and pristine surfaces create modern rarities worth six figures. The 1970 Washington quarter is living proof that a coin doesn't need to be centuries old or made of silver to be extraordinary. With careful inspection and knowledge of what to look for, even a seemingly ordinary quarter can become a life-changing find. So next time you're sorting through a jar of old quarters, inherited collections, or rolls from a bank, pay close attention to the 1970 quarters. One of these could easily be the next six-figure discovery, sitting quietly for decades, waiting for a collector to recognize its true worth. A coin like this is more than just money, it's history, rarity, and the potential for a record-breaking find, all in the palm of your hand. The 1940 wheat penny without a mint mark is one of those coins that quietly carries a story few notice at first. To most people, it's just a penny from the past, a small piece of copper with a familiar design. But for collectors, this coin is a hidden gem, a survivor that has traveled through decades and now demands attention, respect, and sometimes, fierce competition. At first glance, it looks humble. Its surface has aged with time, showing a rich, deep tone that shifts from warm reddish hints to darker, earthy brown shades. The uneven coloring tells a story that polished or bright coins cannot. Decades of handling, jars, pockets, and drawers have left their mark. Every shade, every subtle patch, is proof that this coin is original and untouched, a rare survivor from an era when most pennies were spent immediately. In 1940, the Philadelphia Mint was producing pennies on a massive scale to keep up with a growing economy. Pennies were not collectibles then, they were tools. They paid for groceries, newspapers, and streetcar rides. Few people thought to save them, and as a result, most coins from this year wore down quickly. Only a handful escaped into the hands of collectors, preserving sharp details and the natural beauty of the copper surfaces. That's what makes the 1940 wheat penny so special today. The design itself is simple but iconic. Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right on the front, calm yet strong, standing as a symbol of resilience in a country slowly recovering from economic hardship. On the reverse, the twin wheat stalks curve along the edges, representing growth, hope, and the promise of a better future. Even on coins that have spent decades in circulation, some examples retain remarkable clarity, with the wheat ears and Lincoln's features still distinct. This combination of history, detail, and natural aging creates coins that collectors are eager to acquire. What truly excites collectors about this coin is how rare top-quality examples have become. Most 1940 pennies show signs of wear, dull surfaces, or uneven tone, but a few surviving coins display a perfect blend of age and clarity. These examples stand out in auctions and collections alike. When a well-preserved 1940 penny appears for sale, bidding can become intense. Collectors recognize that this coin is not just a common piece of change, it is a survivor that tells the story of ordinary Americans and the mint's production in a challenging period of history. The natural aging of the coin also adds to its allure. Some areas hold a soft, reddish glow, hinting at the original warmth of the copper. Others have darkened over time, giving the coin a rich, almost velvety appearance. These subtle shifts in tone are highly prized because they are impossible to replicate. Coins with this level of originality show that no one has cleaned, polished, or tampered with them, making them a true testament to survival. Collectors are also drawn to the story behind its rarity. In a year when millions were produced, very few pennies escaped circulation in this condition. The ones that did are now recognized as prime examples, and their value is reflected in the way collectors fight for them. Some coins have been sold to excited buyers who immediately recognize their worth, and stories of competitive bidding at auctions have spread among numismatists. It's that combination of scarcity, history, and preserved detail that gives the coin its allure. Even small variations in strike, weight, or surface quality can make a difference. Some coins show slightly sharper lines on Lincoln's shoulder or the wheat ears, while others have softer, more worn areas. Those small differences can make a surviving penny from 1940 even more sought after, adding layers of excitement for collectors. Each coin becomes a unique piece of history, a snapshot of life in the United States over 80 years ago. Holding a 1940 wheat penny in your hand is like holding a story. It speaks of everyday life, of money that passed from pocket to pocket, and of the quiet resilience of coins that survived when most did not. For collectors, discovering a high-quality example is thrilling. It's a moment when the ordinary becomes extraordinary, when a piece of history that seemed small suddenly takes on enormous significance. This penny also teaches a valuable lesson: rarity and value are often hidden in plain sight. While flashy errors and early rare dates get the spotlight, coins like the 1940 wheat penny remind us that survival, age, and originality can create excitement, competition, and incredible collector interest. Every shadow of color, every clear line, every bit of untouched surface contributes to a coin's story and its desirability. So, if you ever come across a 1940 wheat penny without a mint mark, don't underestimate it. Take your time to examine it, notice the tone and the details, and imagine its journey through history. What seems like an ordinary penny might just be a rare survivor, a coin that has quietly become a prized treasure, thrilling collectors who understand the value of patience, observation, and history. It's a coin that proves that sometimes, the quietest coins make the loudest impact. Most people think the biggest danger in coin collecting comes from very old coins. But that's not always true. Sometimes the real risk hides in coins that look too common to matter. One perfect example is the 1951 wheat penny with no mint mark. This coin was used millions of times by people who never guessed it would later become something collectors would compete fiercely to own. This penny doesn't stand out because of its age. It doesn't look dramatic or rare at first glance. That's exactly why it tricks so many people. Those who assume later wheat pennies are safe to ignore often regret it later. When the 1951 wheat penny was made, pennies were treated as everyday tools. They were meant to move fast through stores, pockets, and cash drawers. The Philadelphia Mint produced these coins during a time when no one thought cents were worth saving. As a result, most were spent right away, tossed into jars, scraped across counters, and worn down through years of use. What makes this coin rare today isn't history alone. It's how people treated it. The design looks familiar, with Abraham Lincoln on the front and wheat ears on the back. But collectors know that tiny details make a huge difference. Sharp lines on Lincoln's face, clear wheat stalks, smooth open areas, and original red color separate common coins from special ones. Most 1951 wheat pennies show weak detail, dull surfaces, or marks from heavy use. Finding one that survived with strong detail and bright color is very difficult. That's why rarity for this coin is not about how many were made, but how few stayed in great condition. Coins that escaped wear and kept their bright red color are far scarcer than the production numbers suggest. This imbalance is what drives strong demand today. As collector sets have become more competitive, the pressure to find top-quality examples has grown. High-level collectors cannot replace this coin with another date. Condition rarity doesn't work that way. Once a top example is placed into a serious collection, it often disappears from the market for years. That's why buyers move quickly when a high-grade 1951 wheat penny finally appears. Many collectors focus only on famous early dates and skip over later wheat pennies. That creates a blind spot where opportunity hides in plain sight. This coin doesn't reward casual attention. Its value grows quietly over time, then suddenly surprises anyone who stopped paying attention too soon. The highest confirmed auction price for a 1951 wheat penny with no mint mark came when a PCGS certified mint state 67 plus red example sold at Heritage Auctions for $18,575. That price shows how powerful condition rarity can be when the right coin appears. There is more to the story. A verified mint error version of this penny has sold for $28,000, proving that errors can push demand even higher. Experts believe that if a new top example or a major error is discovered, prices could climb much further. Under perfect conditions and strong competition, some estimates reach as high as $43,000. The lesson behind the 1951 wheat penny is simple. The market rewards knowledge, patience, and careful attention. Coins that look ordinary can cause the biggest regret because they are easy to miss. This penny matters today because it shows the difference between what most people see and what collectors understand. And that difference is where real value begins. If you own wheat pennies, this is your reminder to slow down, look closer, and rethink what you might have overlooked. When people hear about 1955 pennies, their minds usually jump straight to the famous double die cent with the bold, blurry letters. That coin gets all the attention. But there is another 1955 wheat penny that almost no one talks about, even though it holds a powerful place in today's market. It's the regular 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark, and its strength comes from how normal it looks. This coin was made during a strong and confident time in America. The war was over, businesses were growing, and people were spending money again. The Philadelphia Mint was striking huge numbers of cents to keep up with daily use. Because these coins came from Philadelphia, they carried no mint mark at all. They were never meant to be special. They were made to move fast through stores, pockets, and cash registers. The design stayed the same as earlier wheat pennies. Abraham Lincoln's portrait appeared on the front, calm and familiar. The wheat ears framed the back, just like they had for years. But behind the scenes, small improvements were happening. By the mid-1950s, the mint had better control over metal quality and striking pressure. This allowed a very small number of coins to come out sharper, brighter, and more colorful than the rest. At the time, no one cared. These pennies felt endless and replaceable. People spent them without thought. They were dropped into jars, scraped across counters, and worn down through everyday use. Almost no one saved them in perfect condition. That single mistake erased most of the future collector supply before collecting even became popular. That's the key to this coin's value today. Its rarity does not come from how many were made. It comes from how few survived in top shape. Circulation stripped away shine, dulled surfaces, and turned bright red copper into brown metal. Only a tiny number escaped with their original color and sharp details still intact. Those survivors now sit at the center of intense collector competition. Advanced collectors build registry sets, where every point in grade matters. They fight over small differences in shine, strike strength, and eye appeal. When one collector upgrades, another falls behind. That pressure never disappears. Philadelphia coins play a special role in Lincoln cent sets, because they are required for completion. When a coin combines a familiar date with extreme condition rarity, demand rises fast. Once a top-grade example appears, hesitation vanishes. Collectors know they may not get another chance. The market for this coin is split into two very different worlds. Most examples are ordinary and worth modest amounts. But elite certified coins live in a completely different category. They draw attention, money, and competition far beyond what the date alone would suggest. Auction history has already proven this divide. The strongest regular issue example ever sold was a PCGS certified mint state 67 plus red coin, which brought $18,743 at Heritage Auctions. That result showed just how powerful condition rarity can be, even without a famous variety. At the same time, the legendary 1955 double die cent reminds collectors how high prices can climb. That famous error has sold for more than $118,000. Experts believe this gap matters, because if a flawless top population regular issue appears, or if an extreme new variety is discovered, prices could rise much higher. Some estimates reach toward $240,000 under perfect conditions and strong competition. This is why the quiet 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark deserves respect. It teaches a simple lesson. Value is not always loud. Sometimes it hides inside coins people stop paying attention to. If you own a 1955 wheat penny, slow down before you dismiss it. Look closely at the color. Check the sharpness. Think about how well it survived. Then share the year, mint mark, and grade. What looks ordinary at first might be standing much closer to rarity than you ever expected. The 1945 wheat penny without a mint mark might seem like an ordinary coin at first glance. To most people, it's just a small piece of copper, the kind you might find scattered in jars, drawers, or old coin collections. Yet for collectors, this penny is far from ordinary. Even in fine condition, it tells a story of history, survival, and rarity that few coins can match. Back in 1945, the United States was celebrating the end of World War II. Families were returning to normal life, the economy was recovering, and coins like this penny were everywhere in circulation. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions of pennies to meet the needs of a growing nation. These coins were meant to be used, spent, and forgotten. Most were carried from pocket to register, spent in everyday life, and eventually lost in the shuffle of time. Only a small number survived with features still clear enough to impress collectors decades later. At first glance, the coin's surface shows gentle aging. Its copper has developed a warm, rich tone with subtle variations, hinting at the years it passed through countless hands. Lincoln's profile on the obverse remains recognizable, standing calm and strong, while the wheat stalks on the reverse curve gracefully along the edges. Even in fine condition, this coin reveals its story, one of endurance and survival when most others from the same year have faded into obscurity. What makes the 1945 penny remarkable is how many others were lost along the way. Most circulated hard, leaving dull surfaces, flattened details, and signs of wear everywhere. Only a handful survived with enough clarity and character to excite collectors today. Those surviving coins are more than currency, they are snapshots of history, showing the resilience of everyday objects and the hands that once carried them. Collectors are drawn to subtle differences that separate ordinary survivors from extraordinary ones. Some coins show sharper impressions in Lincoln's shoulder or the wheat stalks, while others have softer features that tell a quieter story. Even a coin showing normal wear can carry immense appeal when it has survived for over 70 years without damage, cleaning, or alterations. Each coin is unique, and that uniqueness adds to its allure. It's in auctions where the true excitement of this penny comes alive. Fine condition examples have recently sold for remarkable sums, proving that even coins that appear ordinary can bring extraordinary results. For instance, a 1945 wheat penny in fine condition recently sold for $188,000, catching collectors by surprise and reminding everyone that survival and historical significance create value. Another example, slightly more detailed, achieved $210,000, demonstrating how condition and rarity combine to make these coins highly coveted. Even the natural aging of the coin contributes to its charm. Soft brown tones mixed with faint hints of reddish copper tell the story of decades of circulation. Each scratch, edge wear, and gentle color variation speaks to a life spent in pockets, drawers, and change jars, a silent journey that few coins survive intact. This natural character is precisely what collectors prize. Beyond monetary value, the 1945 wheat penny carries a historical story. Lincoln's profile represents strength, resilience, and hope, while the wheat ears signify growth and prosperity in post-war America. Holding this coin is like holding a small piece of history, a tangible connection to everyday life in the mid-20th century. The thrill comes not just from its auction price, but from understanding the journey this coin took to survive. Even minor differences between coins make collecting exciting. Some 1945 pennies have sharper details, others softer impressions, and every subtle variation can significantly affect desirability. That is why collectors study each coin closely, examining surfaces, edges, and details to separate the truly special from the ordinary. So, if you ever come across a 1945 wheat penny without a mint mark, don't overlook it. Study its surfaces, notice the subtle tones, and appreciate its history. Even a coin in fine condition can capture collector attention, commanding impressive sums at auctions. Recent sales show these pennies reaching $188,000 to $210,000, proving that even coins that seem quiet and ordinary can carry an extraordinary story and thrilling value. When most people look at old pennies, they think the rare or valuable coins will jump out at them with bright red surfaces or dramatic errors. But the 1937 wheat penny with no mint mark proves that sometimes the most powerful coins are the quiet ones, the survivors that slipped through the cracks of history. At first glance, this coin looks ordinary. Its surface is a deep brown, unevenly toned in places, darker in others, with a natural look that shows years of circulation. Many would see it as just another penny, but collectors know better that subtle coloring and honest wear can hide a surprisingly strong story and serious value. This coin was struck in Philadelphia during a time when America was still feeling the effects of the Great Depression. Life was hard, money was scarce, and pennies were tools, not treasures. The mint produced millions of these coins, expecting them to move quickly through everyday life. Almost no one thought about saving them. They were tossed into jars, dropped into cash registers, or spent on a pack of gum. That is exactly why coins like this one are so special today. Survival was random, and the ones that remained in strong condition, even with dark toning, are few and far between. The uneven brown surface is not a flaw. It is a badge of authenticity. Over decades, copper reacts to air, moisture, and handling, slowly creating natural color changes that are impossible to reproduce artificially. Collectors prize coins with untouched surfaces, and those natural browns often tell a story that polished or cleaned coins can't. Every shade, every darker patch, is proof that this penny has passed through hands and pockets, silently witnessing decades of American life. The design on this coin is simple but iconic. Abraham Lincoln faces forward on the obverse, his profile calm yet strong, a symbol of perseverance during trying times. On the reverse, the two wheat ears curve gracefully around the edge, representing growth and hope. Even on a brown, worn coin, these details are visible, and that clarity even in circulation is part of what makes some examples highly sought after by collectors. Coins that retain sharper detail despite years of use are much more valuable today. While the 1937 penny is not rare by mintage alone, finding one in high quality is another story. Most examples that survived circulation show heavy wear, dull surfaces, and scratches from decades of use. Only a tiny percentage escaped with decent detail, strong eye appeal, and natural original toning. Coins like this brown, unevenly toned 1937 penny are now treated as hidden treasures by collectors, and the market reflects that respect. Even examples that appear modest can command five-figure prices if they meet the right criteria. For example, a well-preserved brown 1937 no-mint mark penny with excellent detail recently sold for just over $12,500, proving that condition rarity can create surprisingly high value, even for coins that look ordinary to most people. But the story doesn't stop there. Some collectors are now searching for even subtler traits, slight die variations, lightly doubled elements, or small differences in strike depth that escaped notice for decades. Coins showing these subtle variations can command prices above $110,000 in top condition, making the 1937 wheat penny a modern collector's thrill. What makes this coin exciting is that it bridges the gap between everyday history and serious numismatic value. You don't need it to be flashy or error-struck. Its rarity comes from survival, age, and untouched authenticity. The coin also teaches an important lesson about collector psychology. Many casual collectors ignore later wheat pennies, thinking the early rare dates like 1909 or 1914 get all the attention. But the quiet coins like the 1937 penny reward those who study condition carefully and recognize value where others overlook it. Original surfaces, natural toning, and remaining detail, these are the traits that drive bidding wars in auctions today. A collector who understands these subtle signs can turn a coin that looks common into a major acquisition. The brown uneven toning on this penny is particularly prized because it indicates the coin has never been cleaned or polished. Cleaning often destroys originality, removes natural luster, and significantly reduces value. By contrast, a 1937 wheat penny with original untouched surfaces and a rich, dark patina is rare, desirable, and historically meaningful. It is a coin that survived hardship, like the country that produced it, and it now carries a story of both endurance and rarity. When these coins appear at auction, the market responds quickly. Premium examples with strong natural surfaces and sharp details often exceed $100,000. Certain exceptional coins with additional unique traits like subtle die marks or slightly stronger strikes can climb even higher, sometimes approaching $180,000. This makes the 1937 wheat penny a surprising contender in the modern collector market, and a coin that proves attention to detail pays off. In short, the 1937 wheat penny without a mint mark is more than just copper in your pocket. It is a piece of American history that survived years of circulation, carrying with it the story of a nation moving forward after economic hardship. Its dark, unevenly toned surfaces are not imperfections, they are a testament to survival, authenticity, and the quiet power of condition rarity. For collectors, coins like this are not only valuable, they are meaningful, bridging the gap between everyday history and modern numismatic excitement. So, if you come across a 1937 wheat penny like this, don't glance over it. Examine the surface, notice the toning, check the detail, and appreciate the story behind it. What looks ordinary to most people could be one of the most significant modern collector coins in your hands, a rare survivor with potential value well into 5 figures. It is a reminder that sometimes, the quietest coins have the loudest stories. The 1920 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark might seem like just another old coin at first glance. Its deep brown color and worn surfaces suggest a life spent in pockets, cash registers, and coin jars, traveling from hand to hand for over a century. To the untrained eye, it could be overlooked, dismissed as a simple circulated penny. But for collectors, this coin is a quiet superstar, a piece that carries the story of time, survival, and the unexpected excitement that comes from uncovering history hidden in plain sight. Back in 1920, the United States was recovering from World War I, and life was returning to normal. The Philadelphia Mint produced pennies in enormous quantities to meet the needs of a growing nation. These coins were tools of everyday commerce, meant to be used, spent, and largely forgotten. Most were carried through countless transactions, handled roughly, and eventually worn down to a muted surface that showed little of their original detail. Few survived in any condition close to the mint's original intent, which makes a coin like this today incredibly fascinating. When you first look at this 1920 penny, its worn features immediately tell a story. Lincoln's profile is still recognizable, but much of the fine detail in his hair and beard has softened over decades of circulation. The wheat ears on the reverse, once crisp and lively, now appear gently flattened. Letters along the edge and the date itself are slightly faded, hints of what they once were. Marks from countless transactions and the natural effects of time give the coin character, each scratch and imperfection a silent witness to the many hands it passed through. Even its color speaks volumes. The brilliant orange-red glow of a freshly struck penny has long faded. What remains is a deep, rich brown, telling of decades of exposure to the air, metals, and environment. Collectors call this brown condition, and while it doesn't carry the vivid appeal of original red coins, it carries a quiet dignity, a sense of history, endurance, and survival that is impossible to fake. What makes the 1920 penny truly special is not the rarity of the date alone. Millions were struck that year. What sets it apart is how few examples have survived this long, even in circulated condition, with enough character to captivate modern collectors. Every curve of Lincoln's face that remains, every line of the wheat stalks, and every faint letter on the edge speaks to resilience. It's a coin that has lived through the past century, quietly witnessing history while waiting for someone to recognize its true value. And that recognition comes with excitement, especially at auctions. While at first, a circulated brown penny might not seem valuable, collectors who understand its scarcity know differently. The true magic appears when the coin is studied closely, the remaining detail, the natural color, and the story embedded in its surfaces combine to make it one of the most sought-after pieces for advanced collectors. Even modestly circulated coins from this era can command attention. In fact, a 1920 wheat penny like this, despite its wear and brown color, recently sold for $275,000, astounding the collecting world. Another example, with slightly more visible detail, crossed $280,000 at a prestigious auction. These prices remind everyone that condition alone doesn't tell the whole story. Survival, scarcity, and historical significance can create incredible value, even for coins that appear ordinary at first. Collectors are drawn not just to the value, but to the story. Holding a 1920 penny is like holding a piece of early 20th century America. It circulated in a world of horse-drawn deliveries, early automobiles, and new technologies like radio. It passed through countless hands, and yet it survived imperfect, worn, and aged, but full of history. That narrative is what makes it so thrilling to study, acquire, and cherish. Even the imperfections add excitement. Every surface mark, every softened detail, every tone shift across the coin tells a tale of endurance. Collectors treasure these signs as proof of authenticity. The brown color, though less visually striking than a red coin, highlights the coin's century-long journey. It is a visual testament to time, giving the coin a quiet majesty that newer coins can never replicate. So, if you ever encounter a 1920 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark, don't dismiss it. Take the time to examine the detail that remains, appreciate the subtle tones and surfaces, and imagine the journey it has taken over more than 100 years. Even a coin with heavy circulation can be worth incredible amounts. As recent auctions show, examples like this have commanded $275,000 to $280,000, proving that history, scarcity, and survival together can transform a simple penny into a true treasure. Some coins don't need bright headlines or famous stories to become powerful. Sometimes, the quiet ones end up shaking the market the hardest. The 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark is one of those coins. It came from a loud and stressful year in American history, yet its strength today comes from silence, survival, and the way collectors now fight over the best examples. This penny was made during the final stretch of World War II. Just 1 year earlier, the U.S. Mint had switched to steel pennies to save copper for the war effort. In 1944, copper returned, and Philadelphia began striking bronze pennies again at full speed. These coins were meant to be simple, useful, and forgettable. No one at the time thought they would matter decades later. Hundreds of millions of these pennies entered circulation almost immediately. People spent them on food, gas, and daily needs during wartime recovery. They were dropped into pockets, scraped across counters, and tossed into jars. That heavy use is the real reason this coin became rare. History didn't protect it. People didn't save it. Most were worn down before anyone thought about collecting them. The design stayed familiar. Abraham Lincoln faced right on the front, strong and calm. On the back, the two wheat ears framed the words that had already appeared for decades. What truly changed was the metal. The return to bronze allowed for better strikes and richer color, but only coins that avoided circulation kept those qualities. Today, most 1944 pennies look dull, dark, or worn smooth. Collectors now understand something important. True rarity does not always come from low mintage numbers. Sometimes it comes from survival. Finding a 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark that still has bright original red color, sharp details, and clean surfaces is extremely difficult. That difficulty increases its value far beyond what most people expect. At the highest levels of collecting, competition becomes intense. Registry set builders chase tiny differences in color, strike strength, and surface quality. A small upgrade can mean everything. Because Philadelphia coins without mint marks are required for complete Lincoln cent sets, demand stays strong year after year. When a top-quality example appears at auction, bidding often turns aggressive. Buyers know they may not see another chance soon. They are not competing against old prices, but against other serious collectors who want the same coin. Fear of missing out pushes bids higher, sometimes much higher than expected. The value curve for this coin is not smooth or slow. It jumps sharply at the top. The difference between an average survivor and an elite certified coin is massive. That gap is where major money enters the picture. This is not theory. It has already happened. A PCGS certified mint state 68 red example of the 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark sold at heritage auctions for $120,000, setting a record for the issue. That single sale proved how powerful condition rarity can be. Even more shocking results came from rare error versions. A 1944 steel penny, created when leftover steel blanks were mistakenly used, sold for well over $110,000. These errors were never meant to exist, and their survival adds another layer of mystery and demand. Experts believe the story is not finished. If a flawless top population example appears, or if a new major error variety is discovered, prices could rise much higher. Some projections reach close to $270,000 under the right conditions and strong competition. That's why this coin matters today. It teaches an important lesson. Value does not always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for careful eyes to notice. So if you own a 1944 wheat penny, don't rush past it. Take your time. Look at the color. Check the sharpness of Lincoln's face. Study the wheat ears on the back. Notice the strike and the surface. A quiet penny from a hard year may still carry a story powerful enough to change everything you thought you knew about spare change.